Hey guys, I'm Tyler and welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to show you how we made this very large, rather custom mirror right here. I did not cut the glass for this because obviously it would have reflected very poorly if it would have cracked. What we had up in the bathroom before wasn't necessarily bad, but you might remember when we made that double hickory vanity, and in doing so, the right side of the vanity didn't really have a mirror, so it was always the plan to make a matching hickory mirror frame to match that very beautiful hickory vanity, and that's what we're going to do today. So I had a couple pieces of hickory sitting on the lumber rack acclimating to the shop so that we didn't get any crazy wood movement, and the first visit was over to the milling area of the shop, starting on the jointer, getting one face and one side nice and flat, and then we will move over to the planer and get that opposing side flat, and then we will have our S3S material. Then we can move it over to the table saw to cut that down to our final dimension. Any one of you guys that have run material through a planer like this, or even the jointer, you will know it creates a lot of chips. Now, you can throw this away, but we also happen to have some chickens, made a coop for them a while back, so this is the perfect material for the bottom of that chicken coop and the nest boxes for a nice, comfortable little hen house for our hens to lay their eggs. So that is what we do with our shavings. As mentioned before, we're going to surface that fourth side over at the table saw, breaking our material down to the 2.5 inch width that I was after. Got all of our hickory milled up right here, and I'm going to cut up a couple of things on the miter saw. And I got my little sketch. This is how I designed this project, not in SketchUp. And I do want a 1 inch overhang on each side. So what I measured for 60 inches, I want to make sure I cut to 62 inches. When we get it up here on the miter saw, we use the stop block so we get nice repeatable cuts. Then we'll move over the table saw to do those half lap joints. You may notice that I already have the dado stack on the table saw, but we have a lot of material to move, so I'm going to really maximize the thickness of the blade and the chippers that I can put on there so we can really hog out quite a bit of material. To start, I want to make sure we have the height of that blade just right so we get a perfect half lap joint. We're about to cut the dado so we can do the farmhouse style overlap. We want 1 inch on the outside, the dado that the board will fit in. So what I'm going to do is, these can be a little bit tricky, is I'm going to set my fence to 1 inch, which gives us that overhang, and we're going to take all the boards that need an overhang and we're going to cut one dado, and I have a test piece here, and then we will take that test piece, we will adjust the fence 2.5 inches that way, but we need to take into account the width of our blade. So 2.5 minus the width of that blade. We are ready to index the fence down, and the easiest way to do that is with a actual board that we're going to be modeling after. You don't want to just move your fence down 2.5 inches, which is the width of this, because it will have the additional width of the blade in there, and your dado is going to be way too big. So using a nice sharp pencil, go ahead and lay your workpiece right up here. You can kind of push it into place and then lay it down if you so want. Actually, we want to do this way so that we can see our line when we're lining up with the blade here. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of rock it a little bit, fit it right in there, feels good, and I'm going to mark a line. Now, you want to make sure you also move your fence down in such a manner that you are inside of this line and not cutting on the line because your pencil was outside your board. I would also recommend cutting it a little bit tight, and then you can always open it up, but you can't go backward. Wow. That was by accident. That wasn't actually perfect on purpose the first time, but that goes to show you, there's my line right there. I can see the whole thing, so it would have been even better to move the fence this way a little bit and not have this fit the first time. It worked out, but it doesn't always work out this way. So now our alignment is ready, and as you saw, we can cut this groove first, and then we can work our way out and remove everything in that dado. After we got everything set up, it was really rather just rinse and repeat on all the areas that needed the half-lap joints. Not the corner, obviously, we'll get to that in a second, but once we got all the half-lap joints done, it was time to assemble what we could, make sure everything was nice and square so that we could lay out that kind of goofy corner, which we'll touch base on right now. This is not the most scientific way of making the measurement that I want here, but it is the best way I could come up with. So we have a Cape Cod house, and this is going to angle right here and going to go against the ceiling. So I need to make sure I get that angle right. I have the measurements from the wall and from the countertop. I don't know about all you guys, but sometimes it's almost embarrassing how totally right-handed I am. I mean, look at how I'm holding that marking knife with my left hand. I got it done, don't worry. Well, got a little change of plans. You know, all that time we just spent on these butt joints, these half-lap butt joints, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off. Reason for that is because of the angle right here. There is no overlap right there. So I want everything to match. So I'm gonna go ahead and lop off this overlap here on the miter saw, and we should be good to go. There is nothing else in the bathroom that this mirror is going that has that overlap. The downstairs bathroom has that farmhouse overlap, so this isn't going to stick out as something that doesn't belong in that bathroom, and it's still going to look fantastic, and we're not going to lose any strength by removing that overlap right there. A couple of quick minutes at the miter saw later, undoing a bunch of that work that we just did. Not really undoing it, it was just a little bit more complicated having to have that overhang that we wanted to leave in place, but really the process is the same for making just the half-lap joint that we ended up with. Now it is time to glue everything up. I'm using my trusty Titebond 2, making sure we have plenty of wood glue in that joint, and then we're literally just setting it in place, adding a clamp, and using a speed square to make sure everything is nice and square. Obviously, we need a rabbet in the back of this frame to accept the glass, and I'm going to do that over on the router table. It makes quite a mess, shavings everywhere all over again, and you do need to make sure you hang on to this thing because it can really up and grab on you if you're not paying attention. And then using a handheld trim router, I'm going to add the cutest little round over all around the outside and the inside of the frame. We are getting close to my favorite finishing time, and that is not a joke. We got to do a little bit of sanding, making sure we get this up to 220 grit, making sure we have no swirl marks. Quick work of that with the Mercaderos sander. Obviously, getting a piece of glass with a 90-degree corner is going to be much easier than getting a rounded one, and it's much easier to use the multi-tool versus a chisel in here. And my friends, I am not joking when I say I do like to apply finish when it is sprayed. That's pretty much the only way you can do it. We're going to be doing the tried and true DIYTyler method of one coat of General Finishes sanding sealer sprayed with a 1.3 millimeter tip. And in my case, I'm using a Fuji Q5 Platinum Turbine sprayer, but you can use whatever sprayer you like. And then we will sand 220 grit, just real quick to knock down the grain that is raised up. And then we are going to apply 3 coats of the General Finishes Clear Enduro Poly using a 1 millimeter tip in the Fuji spray system. And as you can see, it lays down really, really nicely. After allowing that finish to cure overnight, it is time to put our mirror glass in place. And as you can see, I am terrified of breaking this thing. It cost $150 to get this cut custom to the frame, which really was quite a bargain, I guess, because to get a 60-inch wide piece of glass would have been about $300 if I could have even gotten it. And Richmond Glass here in Southeast Michigan did a fantastic job. Perfect cut. We'll definitely go back there again if I need anything specialized like this. Also going to be fastening some cardboard using the DIYTyler multifunction staple gun to the back of this mirror to hopefully help absorb any impact if something does hit the mirror. And that brings me to the sponsor of today's video, who is Taiwan Excellence. The symbol of Taiwan Excellence is recognition given to the very best and most innovative Taiwanese company, who actually account for most of the world's medium and high-end tools from the biggest names in home improvement stores that we love. DIYTyler is one of those brands which has been recognized for their innovative design quality and marketing. This multifunction stapler, which works with T50 and JT21 staples, can be used as a standard staple, like I just did, a heavy-duty paper stapler, which is pretty sweet. It can also be used to attach temporary things that can be easily removed. As you can see, this is a very compact tool, just about the size of my hand. It's all metal construction and has a pimp chrome finish and looks pretty good. And it's no slouch. With its spring plate design, it had no problem, as you saw, shooting staples into this solid hickory. And as you can see right there, when I bring out a new stack of plans, staples them together perfectly too. Same tool. And to make sure our mirror and cardboard don't wiggle their way out of those staples that we just shot in there, I'm going to be using some side cutters to make sure the staple is pushed down into the cardboard. And then a couple of picture frame hangers are in order to hang this mirror up, 2 of them, because it is a relatively heavy frame, and being that it's hickory, also need to drill a tiny little pilot hole before pounding your nail home into place. And then it is upstairs for installation, and it was a little bit of origami to make sure everything fit right where it needed to go. I needed to make sure we got over the faucets. We needed to get under the Cape Cod angled roof, which is why we had to make this whole goofy mirror to begin with. Now, are you going to need to make a frame exactly like this someday? Probably not, but the whole point is to show you, if I can do it, you can too, and you can make a beautiful frame like this relatively easy. You don't necessarily need to get rough lumber and dimension it like I did, so you can cut out a whole bunch of tools. If you just go to the home center and get some already surfaced on 4 sides S4S oak, you can make yourself a beautiful mirror, custom sized just like this, much larger than you could possibly get at a home store if you go and get some custom glass like we did. So we just added a couple of nails so that we could hang those picture frames on them, and we are perfectly level and we are ready to go. And by golly, does it look great in there, and it really lightens up the bathroom as well because we added much more mirror space reflecting the light back down at us. Alright, that is a wrap on the mirror. The frame turned out fantastic. I can't take much credit for the glass because I did hire out getting that glass cut, because to get a piece of glass this wide was like $300 to get the piece, and it's highly likely that I would have cracked it. I was able to get the piece of glass custom, and it has a security laminate on the back, so if it does happen to shatter, it won't fall all over the place. It'll just kind of crack in place, and it has a backing on there which should help absorb if something does bounce against it and not crack the glass. So I was able to get that for $150, cut to exactly the size we needed from a small town place here in town. That's the way to do business right there. But anyway, I hope that helped some of you out. If it did, please hammer that thumbs up button, as it helps us out and gets this video in front of more eyes. I'm DIYTyler, reflecting back at you. You guys have a good one.